Good morning. Indeed, my name is Sjaak Wolfert. In daily life, I'm a senior scientist at the Wageningen University Research Center. But I'm here for the FI-Space project, which I'm coordinating, which is one of the phase 2 projects, as Halit introduced. And this is in the agri-food, transport and logistics sector. And we're focusing on business collaboration. And I will explain that in a minute. So very briefly, I think most of you know this picture, but just to indicate where we are in the whole FI-PPP program. So here's FI-Space, which is a merger from two phase 1 projects, Finest and Smart Agri-Food. Smart Agri-Food evidently was in the agri-food sector, and Finest was on the transport and logistics sector, so that's why we are now focusing on these sectors. And at the very right, I think we were also already introduced into the new phase 3 with the accelerator projects, and I will also briefly touch upon that, how the relationship is between accelerator projects and FI-Space. So to start with the large arrow over here, the 3 sectors, we just put some figures, some main figures over there, indicating how important these sectors are for the European community, and I think you can draw similar figures for other continents worldwide. So it's a big economic impact, but also in terms of sustainability, environmental pollution, or greenhouse gases. It's also a very important sector where we can save a lot. Here we try to draw a kind of visualization of the sector we are targeting at. And as you see, it's a whole network of, can be producers, in this case it's a kind of farm, but it can also be a washing machine factory, for example. We have also involved from Turkey. Well, we have advisors, consultants, forwarders, carriers, and also customs and banks can be involved in this whole, what we call, business collaboration process, especially also highlighting that it is a network. Sometimes you can look at it as a linear production chain, producing somewhere here that goes to the consumer. But in reality, if you look at information exchange that is necessary for what we call business collaboration, there are a lot of cross-organizational information exchange. And that is actually what we try to focus at. And that's in practice. We know that. We have quite some contacts. We have also, as you will see, several partners from these industries involved. There is still quite a problem if you especially talk about information. So as you as a consumer, we are all consumers here in the end. Increasingly you want to know what happened to your food, what's in it, how is it produced, does it contain horse meat, and then if so, was the animal treated well or not. And as you can imagine, if you, I always take the example of a pizza, which has many ingredients coming from all over the world, if you are going to analyze that. It's quite a challenge to put the right information together, also that it is that it can be trusted. Well, so that's one of the main big challenges in this sector, and it's also a challenge from a technical perspective because, of course, there are several very large companies which have, in principle, a lot of money to buy advanced software to do all these things. However, they are also still relying on many small and medium-sized enterprises that are somehow also operating in this network, especially at the producer side. If you talk about agri-food business, most of the farmers are still family farms or a small and medium-sized enterprise, actually. I'm not saying that they are not using advanced technology. On the contrary, if you look at nowadays farms, they use a lot of sensors and they are collecting a lot of data. So that's here in the middle. What we see that all these businesses are very much challenged by all these new technologies that are already there or are coming up. And okay, I think the link with the future internet is then easily made. So that's what FI-Space wants to do. FI-Space wants to facilitate the use of all these technologies for these sectors, so that we get a seamless collaboration and also a very high transparency and visibility of all processes, and also that it is easy to use several services and apps to do this. Not very expensive, monolithic, large information systems, but very easy to use and cheap apps and services. And if we manage that, then the last bullet, I think we can also realize that it's also possible that more flexible or agile business networks can be established. Okay, I think this is the main concept of the whole project. Now I will explain some technical background. I'm not going into the whole detail. So this was from phase one, a picture from Smart Agri-Food, the conceptual architecture we developed over there. But in principle, it was very similar to what was done in Finest. So here at the bottom, you see the producers, the farm, using many sensors, actuators, generating a lot of data. So that's the Internet of Things that is virtualized or can be virtualized into the cloud. So this is a farm management system. So we propose to have some kind of cloud farm management system, because then it's also easier to connect with other data sources, for example, satellite data, which are usually publicly available, and then you can do a lot of things with that. But also it's easier to connect with all kind of devices if your information is in the cloud. But most of all, of course, you want to add value or intelligence to all these data using services which are here. It can be, for example, an advisory service to spray your chemicals, or you can have an emergency situation when a machine breaks down and you have to replace spare parts or something like that. We built several scenarios for that. So there comes the App Store in. So we say, okay, then it should be easy for a user, can be a farmer, advisor, or some trader, that he uses some kind of app to solve the problem. Well, this was just a very rough conceptual architecture. Actually, Finest focused a little bit more on this architecture and had some more advanced ideas, but we were basically going for the same direction, so that's why we merged. So the challenge for phase two was to make an architecture based on FiWare that makes this work, and that's has resulted into the FI-Space platform architecture. And in reality, it's also much more detailed, of course, but this is just a high-level view. So there are several, it's completely based on FiWare, so actually we will use a lot of FiWare generic enablers to realize our platform. So there are several layers on security, system and data integration, etc., etc. But of course, the main extension is the FI-Space App Store, and also something which we call the real-time business-to-business collaboration core, because we were talking about business collaboration. And well, that's really also a very important extension that I will explain in a moment. But just to indicate, we're building this platform currently. We have a first release available internally in the project. In a few months, we hope to have a public release. And we're testing that with 8 trials all over Europe, ranging from farming, logistics, and consumer type of trials. So now to highlight a little bit what we mean by this business-to-business collaboration core. So there are 3 main roles. We have app developers, we have users at the other side, and in the current situation where you have an app store, as a user you can just download your app and use it, but they are usually just for single purposes. I sometimes ask, when I give presentations for especially the business, I ask them how many of you have a smartphone, of course many of them, or a tablet, and how many of you use apps. Of course we use a lot of apps, but how many apps do you use for your business? well, then there are not too many examples besides email or just browsing on the internet, I don't know. But that's the problem, because for doing business, just a single app doesn't really help you for example, to look what the weather information is. You have to connect this information to all your other processes that you are doing in a kind of workflow that you can identify. So that's the basic extension we want to reach with the FI-Space platform. And that's really also very distinctive from the existing app stores that we have already. So this explains the principle. So you have these app developers developing apps that we put in the app store, so far nothing new. But then we have a kind of configuration process where several apps that are still loosely coupled, but they are coupled and they are supporting some kind of business collaboration process that the user then can use. And we also want to make this in a very flexible and agile way, so that depending on the situation of the business process that sometimes changes, we can easily adapt that. But of course, also single app configuration or single app use is also possible. So this is basically a very important extension we are making. So this is just for your information, the partners that are behind the FI-Space platform. So we have some main technical partners, mainly Atos, IBM and Koç System from Turkey, who are driving the technical development. But of course we have also many other partners. We have already, as I said, several partners from industry involved, from different industries. And well, we are coordinating, and there are some other knowledge partners still involved to help us. So what we would like to go for is a kind of FI-Space ecosystem, because like with every platform or app store kind of approach, it only works if you do business collaboration with each other, and then you both have to be in the platform. So it's only going to work if there are a lot of end users, which are up here, connected to the FI-Space platform. And at the same time, okay, when they are connected, they also need a lot of apps or services that are supporting their business. So we also need a lot of apps. Well, that's of course a huge challenge, but we said that we have to have this high ambition to develop this FI-Space platform and to put it at least a European level or a global level, and being the platform for business collaboration. Otherwise, it will not work. Well, of course, we have a good strategy for that, leveraged by the European Commission. So we have these at least identified 5 accelerator projects we just started, so there might be even more projects. Well, some of them will be presented in a moment. So we have Smart Agri Food 2, which is in the farming sector, Finish on logistics of flowers and food, Incense, which is on smart energy, that also intend to use FI-Space. It's from another sector, but as you can understand, the platform as such is not limited to these 3 sectors. We will only have some examples, some proof of concepts available from agri-food, transport and logistics, but it can also be used by other sectors if necessary. There will be another smart farming phase 3 projects that is especially focusing on the Balkan area or the Balkan region. And we have Speed Up Europe, which also has a focus on agribusiness, but also on other businesses. So we'll see how this is going to work. But if you count this up, in principle, we would have a kind of a budget of 20 million euros in the coming 2 years available. So I think we should be able to have at least a few hundred of apps and services available in the FI-Space platform. And of course, we will also try to attract more users. So then I think we can have quite a fast start at the very beginning. So if you want to participate in this, there are several opportunities. This is of course already the first opportunity to get involved. But especially for this area, there will be an interesting conference in Paris in June, Smart Agri-Metics, where FI-Space will also be co-organizing together with other projects, and we will invite many other peoples. It's not a very scientific conference. It's also kind of, well, I sometimes call it a kind of hackathon type of conference. In all these projects, we already developed software for this business. And what we would like to do in this conference is to see how can it be put together and to make it work. So you are very much invited to come over there. So I thank you for your attention, and if there are any questions, then I'm glad to answer that.